Some films don't just entertain, they uplift. They remind us that imagination can heal, that kindness can transform, and that sometimes the right person arrives exactly when needed, carried in on a shifting wind. Mary Poppins is one of those rare pictures, and like the character herself, it remains, decades later, practically perfect in every way. Today on Walt's Wisdom, we're diving deep into the history, artistry, and legacy of one of Walt Disney's crowning achievements. We'll explore the cast and crew who brought this magical world to life, the long and complicated relationship between Walt Disney and author P.L. Travers, the film's joyful premiere, and even the modern retelling of that history in Saving Mr. Banks. So straighten your hat, grab your carpet bag, and keep an eye out for dancing penguins. Let's step into the world of Mary Poppins. Walt Disney first encountered the Mary Poppins books in the early 1940s when his daughters Diane and Sharon fell in love with them. They begged him to make a movie about the magical nanny who could slide up banisters and turn chores into adventures. Walt promised he would, but P.L. Travers had other ideas. For nearly 20 years, Walt courted Travers with letters, visits, and proposals. She refused every one. She didn't trust Hollywood, and she certainly didn't trust animation. She feared her beloved Mary Poppins would be turned into a cartoonish figure, stripped of the sharp wit and emotional complexity she had written into the books. Finally, in 1961, Travers agreed to come to Los Angeles to discuss the project. What followed was a famously tense collaboration, one that would later inspire Saving Mr. Banks. But despite the friction, Walt pressed forward. He believed in the story, he believed in the character, and he believed that Mary Poppins could help him tell a story about family, healing, and the quiet heroism of parents. Travers attended script meetings, demanded changes, and objected to nearly everything, including the use of animation. When she saw the finished film, she was moved, but also upset. She asked Walt to remove the animated sequences. Walt replied, "Pamela, that ship has sailed." When Walt saw Julie Andrews in Camelot on Broadway, he knew instantly. She was Mary Poppins. Andrews brought a perfect blend of warmth, discipline, humor, and mystery. Her crystalline voice gave the Sherman Brothers songs their timeless quality. Her performance earned her the Academy Award for Best Actress, a rare feat for a first-time film role. Dick Van Dyke, already beloved for his television work, brought boundless energy and charm to the role of Bert. His physical comedy, warmth, and sincerity made him the emotional bridge between the magical world of Mary Poppins and the everyday world of the Banks family. David Tomlinson's performance as George Banks is one of the film's quiet triumphs. Though often overshadowed by the flashier musical numbers, Tomlinson delivers a nuanced portrayal of a man shaped by Edwardian expectations. Rigid, orderly, emotionally distant, who slowly rediscovers joy, vulnerability, and fatherhood. His transformation is the emotional spine of the film, and in many ways, George Banks became one of the earliest cinematic models of the modern father, a subject to which we will return. Glynis Johns brought a delightful mix of charm and comedic timing to Winifred Banks, the well-meaning but distracted mother. Her character was softened from Travers' books, where Mrs. Banks is far more aloof. Johns's musical number, Sister Suffragette, adds both humor and historical grounding. The young actors, Karen Dotrice and Matthew Garber, were discovered by Disney casting director Maud Spector. Their natural chemistry and innocence gave the film its emotional accessibility. Walt adored them, and their performances as Jane and Michael remain some of the most beloved child roles in Disney history. Robert Stevenson, one of Walt's most trusted directors, brought discipline and clarity to a film that blended live action, animation, special effects, and musical storytelling. Stevenson had already directed Old Yeller and The Absent-Minded Professor, but Mary Poppins became his masterpiece. His steady hand ensured that the film's technical innovations never overshadowed its emotional core. Richard and Robert Sherman wrote some of the most iconic songs in Disney history, and Mary Poppins is, in my opinion, their crowning achievement. They gave us A Spoonful of Sugar, Feed the Birds, Let's Go Fly a Kite, Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, and the Oscar-winning Chim Chim Cheree. Walt had a special connection to Feed the Birds. Many Friday afternoons, he would call the Sherman brothers into his office and ask them to play it. He'd sit quietly, sometimes with tears in his eyes. He once said, "That's what it's all about." The song's message, that small acts of kindness matter, became the film's heartbeat. The film's combination of live action and animation required groundbreaking techniques. Animator Ward Kimball and his team spent months perfecting the choreography so Dick Van Dyke could dance with characters who didn't exist yet. This scene and others in the chalk painting world were created using the sodium vapor process, perfected by Disney legend and genius Ub Iwerks. It was a precursor to modern green screen technology, but every bit as effective. Perhaps more so. The 2013 film Saving Mr. Banks, with Tom Hanks playing Walt Disney and Emma Thompson as P.L. Travers, dramatizes the relationship between Walt and Pamela. It captures the emotional truth of their creative clash, but it takes liberties. I believe some things about the film were on point. Travers was fiercely protective of her characters. She disliked animation and resisted the film's lighter tone. The Sherman brothers found her difficult to work with, and Walt genuinely wanted to honor the emotional core of her story. But some things miss the mark, and others are simply incorrect. Travers was more combative and less sympathetic than portrayed. She essentially invited herself to the premiere. Walt did not give her a heartfelt speech about fathers and daughters that we know of, and the film softens the depths of their disagreements. Still, the film captures something essential. Walt and Travers loved Mary Poppins, just in very different ways. Make no mistake, if you love Mary Poppins or Walt, Saving Mr. Banks is not a film to be missed. The world premiere took place on August 27, 1964, at Grauman's Chinese Theater. The audience laughed, cried, and applauded. Walt watched quietly, knowing he and his team had created something very special. The film earned 13 Academy Award nominations, winning 5. It became the highest-grossing film of 1964 and cemented its place in cinematic history. The awards earned were Best Actress for Julie Andrews, Best Film Editing for Cotton Warburton, Best Musical Score and Best Original Song for the Sherman Brothers, and Best Special Visual Effects for Peter Ellenshaw, Hamilton Luske, and Eustace Lysette. Set in Edwardian London, the film follows the Banks family: George, Winifred, Jane, and Michael. The household is in disarray, and Mr. Banks is consumed by his work. Mary Poppins arrives to restore harmony, not through discipline, but through wonder. She and Bert lead the children on magical adventures, from chalk paintings to whimsical chimney sweeping. But beneath the whimsy lies a deeper story. Mary Poppins is there to heal the family, especially Mr. Banks. George Banks begins the film as a product of Edwardian expectations, rigid, orderly, and emotionally distant. His identity is tied to his job, his status, and his control over his household. But Mary Poppins gently dismantles that worldview. His breaking point, walking to the bank to be fired, is one of the most quietly powerful scenes in Disney history. There is a moment when he pauses near the steps of St. Paul's Cathedral and notices the bird lady is not there. And there his transformation begins. Once in the bank, he is confronted by the board and realizes that it's his family that is real, vital, and important. This was far from the norm in the early 1960s. In 1964, the idea of a father openly embracing play, vulnerability, and emotional presence was not common in mainstream media. George Banks became an early cinematic model of the modern, emotionally engaged father. A man who learns that love is not weakness, but strength. His transformation is not just a subplot, it is the film's soul. It is near to the very heart of Walt's wisdom. Mary Poppins endures because it balances spectacle with sincerity. It's whimsical without being shallow, emotional without being sentimental. It speaks to children and adults in different but equally powerful ways. Julie Andrews embodies grace and strength. Dick Van Dyke radiates warmth and humor. David Tomlinson gives the film its emotional anchor. The Sherman Brothers' music is timeless, and Robert Stevenson's direction is elegant and assured. And Walt Disney, well, Walt's guiding hand is visible in every frame. The film reminds us that magic isn't about spells or tricks. It's about kindness. It's about connection. It's about remembering what truly matters. And that is why Mary Poppins remains, after all these years, practically perfect in every way. Thanks for supporting Walt's wisdom. Please give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and let us know what you think and what you'd be interested to see next.